friends, welcome to today's video. Oh, there go the books. So this is a bit of a bonus video for YouTube because I wasn't planning on deviating from my Friday upload schedule, but I realized as January kind of flew by, there was a ton of stuff that I was working on that I hadn't actually shared with you other than on Instagram or perhaps an Insta story or maybe on Facebook. But for the most part, a lot of stuff has just kind of been happening off camera. Now, I have been extremely busy with some of the stuff that you've probably seen on social media already, and then also some other things that behind the scenes, and it's just kind of like, it's been a crazy start to the year already, but that hasn't really stopped me from working on all this stuff. I just, with the new upload schedule, sometimes it's hard if I pre-film something because there's a big delay in when I get to actually show you something. And since I already had a video planned for this Friday as well, I thought, you know what, if I don't show you what I got up to in January, it'll probably never happen. So I'm just going to go through everything from my 5-year Hobonichi journal to the journal that I worked on at Art Journaling the Magic. I've got my Fobonichi weeks, and I also have my sketch planner. So I'm going to go through all of these today and just kind of chat you through some of the stuff I've been working on, because I am really excited to share it, and I just think, well, there's no video about it yet, so I just want to go and make a video about it. I had no intentions of doing it until I thought, well, when am I ever going to get to sharing any of this? So let's just start, I guess, from top to bottom. There's no real order of, you know, which one's more important because they're all quite different, to be honest. This is my 5-year Hobonichi journal. I've unboxed this. I've kind of talked about this before in my plans for this. I did kind of smudge some paint on the cover, so I have covered it with some travel stickers and some fun like vinyl stickers that I had, even like little photo prints, which makes me really happy. Oh, there you go. There you can see my marble table, super light table. I can just move it. It is a piece of paper. This is such a beautiful little journal. It's A6, and I'm actually up to date in it. It's quite scary. Some days I've been good about kind of putting an illustration in there, even though that wasn't my intention to, you know, illustrate on every day. I did just kind of want to chronicle what was going on in the day. But some days, yeah, I really had the time for it. Some other days I didn't. I've been experimenting with a few different mediums in here because this is something I just don't feel comfortable adding like stickers or washi or ephemera to, just because of how thick it is. I mean, it's super well bound, but I just don't want to, I don't want to make it like this big. You know what I mean? Like I kind of want to keep it just a little thicker than this. I know it's already kind of bulking up a little bit, so I, you know, just had to be a little mindful about that. Now, I haven't covered anything in here, so if you're really curious to know how much I weigh at this point, you can look at it on the first page. You know, I know some people are out there to try and pause the video and read, but to be honest, you're not really going to find anything out in here. It is just kind of documenting the day I had, not really any of the feelings I had about it. Sometimes I do, but for the most part, it's pretty repetitive, which is interesting to try and document because, you know, you're trying to find the other parts of today that were different about yesterday, and that's a kind of a struggle for me in this book particular. But I've managed to, you know, do some little pencil drawings over here. You can see I was like fully into it in the first couple of days. Really wanted to give it my absolute everything. Obsessed with Terrace House. Oh, this is the little journal. This is the other journal that we'll be flipping through. Went to Art Journaling the Magic. That was super fun. I'll chat about that when I flip through that journal. But it's been really fun to try and document it in such a tiny space. I've been having to write a lot smaller, even be mindful of how I decide to put certain elements that I want to draw in there. Like I got this shirt from Stella that has Whitney Houston on it. Stella is my provider of Whitney Houston t-shirts. And on the arm it says I have nothing, and it's literally the best thing ever. But some days you can see I just didn't draw anything, and I'm so fine with that as well, because it is such a small space, and you know, this is a 5-year journal. So when I come back for the next year, you know, on a space like this, I might feel more inclined to draw on that day, and then on a space like this, maybe leave it for the next year. Who knows? I'm not planning this thing out. I might lose it accidentally. Who knows? Maybe it'll all disappear. So thank goodness I've got a video about it. But I, you know, I accidentally skipped a few days. I skipped one day and then I had to go backtrack and do something else for it. It's been interesting because it's trying to get me into a pattern. It's trying to get me to, you know, be diligent and get into a routine of doing it. This is not something that I'm super familiar with. I love to art journal, I love to draw and paint anywhere I can, but to actually devote one specific book to a daily practice, that's kind of new to me, I feel. So it's been interesting. I even got my stamps out in this one for the when I was making samples for Creativation. That was fun. I do try to draw whatever was relevant to the day, or kind of, you know, put that in there, but you can see some days, especially over the show weekend, I mean, I just had no time to draw anything or write. I just wrote, what an amazing day. Surely that sums it all up. You know, changing my pen colors is even something that I've been enjoying. It seems so dumb, but I mean, when you've got like a tin of pens just looking at you and begging to be used, I do use them a lot actually in my mixed media. Some of the pens do transfer, like some of the more viscous ink from some of these gel pens do kind of transfer, so I try to blot it up, but you know, I didn't really set out to care about how this looked in the end. I just wanted to commit to doing it, and I think that's been kind of liberating for me, especially if I accidentally skipped a day and had to go back, or especially if I didn't have anything to draw, I didn't have the time to draw anything, because there were no rigid rules about what I was doing. It actually felt a lot easier to work in, and some of the illustrations, I mean, they're 2 minutes, and it's literally done. I've used my zebra mild liners on this, so it's kind of also forcing me to use some of the products that I maybe don't use a lot, like those mild liners. I have a set, they're really, really great, but I don't typically use these for anything other than, you know, my sketch planner. And so to use them in here is actually really good because there's a nice color selection, and also it doesn't bleed through. Like there's no ghosting or anything, because this paper is really, really thin. I could never use like an alcohol marker in here. Sometimes I use the paint marker, but I think that got a little like, it changed the texture of the paper a little bit. So mostly it's been gel pens, mild liners, and some pencils. And I did do some watercolor in here. So that was actually nice. I actually really like this paper for watercolor. This was a fun little idea that I had just to fill in these little boxes, because it's been raining heaps here over the past week, and fill in these little boxes with some mild liner and then put little raindrops in there. I actually used that idea over in my Phobonichi to document the kind of weeks that I've been having lately. So, you know, it's kind of sparking new ideas for me, which is fun too. And then I think we get to today when I'm filming this. It is currently actually no, this was yesterday. Today's the 4th, but I haven't had today yet, so I'm sure I'll journal about YouTubing today. But yeah, I love it. I really, really do love it. I can't wait to see it grow and develop, and what kind of inspiration I can even pull from here into my other journaling, or what it just kind of reveals about, you know, the patterns of my life and the days and how they go. And, you know, maybe I might even get better at time management through this. Who knows? Although I think that's the sketch planner's job. So I'm going to put this back in its box. Love the little box. I keep it housed in the box so it keeps nice and neat and the cats don't eat it. The next journal I've got to show you is this Wally journal. This is a little golden book, and Tanji actually gifted this to me. These are handmade journals. I'm going to leave a link in the description to where you can get these, because these are really, really fun to work in. They're watercolor paper, they've got these lovely deckled edges, and there's a bunch of covers that you can choose from. Some of them are super rare as well. I chose Wally because I love Wally. I know it's super weird because I hate space, but I can stand it to watch that movie. Steve actually has a Coco one as well, which I'm currently trying to steal because I don't know why he would need it, and I definitely do. This is the journal that everyone works in at the Art Journaling the Magic retreats, which is something I was very, very lucky to get to go and participate in this year at Disneyland back, it seems like a year ago, but it was literally a few weeks ago. I had such an amazing time with everybody. It is such a great retreat for anyone that is a big Disney lover and also loves to get arts and crafts, which is, you know, that's kind of my whole life. So this was the perfect retreat for me to go to, and I kind of just popped in and out a couple of times and spent some time with everyone. We did a little bit of a demo, and I got to participate in the sketch walk and just some general chit chat and banter about art supplies and journaling. And I think that's why it was so fun for me, because I know I've said this a million times, but I'll probably always keep saying it until there is someone else literally next to me as I'm working. But, you know, I do so much of this alone, and it's so nice to be able to be with people and connect with people who are your own brand of crazy. We call them tribes, or, you know, whatever you'd like to call them. People that understand the excitement of using a new gel pen or finding a new watercolor that is super pretty. A huge group of enablers is basically what they are, but they were a really, really fun group to be with, and I just loved the experience. This was some of the stuff I actually did before I went. I kind of did the cover in a bit of a vintagey look with the Wally references. I did an up house. I kind of knew I was going to demo something there, so I wanted to have a few things to pick from to demo, and one of them was this up house because it's actually really simple to do, and I thought that would be fun. We didn't end up actually doing that one. We did something else. This was just something I was doing because I'm obsessed with Tokyo Disney Resort. This is a bit of a screenshot from Mermaid Lagoon, and I just did it in watercolors. I'm really, really proud of that. I'm kind of annoyed because I ripped up the paper with my masking tape, but what are you gonna do? I still think the picture looks nice. And I never usually spend that much time putting attention and detail into a piece, so that was really fun. Here I had kind of prepped something in my Color Eno pencil because it's such a great pencil for sketching because the color, you can erase it first of all, but the color is also really light that you can actually just leave it there and do a lot of lineless coloring with it. So I'd sketched out the castle and I'd sketched out Mickey's Fun Wheel over at California Adventure. I wanted to kind of pull like both parks together around the border and do some journaling in the middle, but you can see, I mean, I spent quite a long time getting the proportions right on everything, and I just kind of gave up in the end because I wanted to do something that wasn't so involved. This was one of the sketch walks that happened at the retreat, and I thought it was actually a really, really fun idea, and I was just kind of pulling motifs from the different lands that I could see from where I stood, and then journaling about it. This is the kind of stuff that Tanji puts together to help people, you know, document or be inspired by their surroundings, and especially at Disneyland, I mean, there's so much to take in, and there's so many little details that you probably just don't notice as you're kind of panicked running through the park trying to get it all done. So it is such an indulgent experience, first of all, to be in the park without the pressure to do everything, but then to be in there and actually create and look at all of the creative genius that went into planning so many of those things, like some of the details that you just would never notice, like a flourish in the corner of a store just painted onto the ceiling. It's just stunning. So I miss it every day. Can't wait to go again. I actually want to do the full retreat one day because I kind of popped in and out, and I see a lot of benefit to doing that full retreat. It's just packed full of inspiration. This was another one of the pieces I thought I might demo. Again, it was a little involved, but we used some of the ideas for this in the actual demo piece. This was painted with gouache and acrylics. Still really struggling to get my gouache consistency right, especially with the white. I water it down way too much. This was like 2 coats of how much I had watered it down. So I'm still in a bit of a learning process with that, but the illustrations around it, these are all the flowers from Alice in Wonderland in the Golden Afternoon. Giving you a bit of an Alice theme here. This is the piece we actually ended up demoing on the day. It was so funny because as I was demoing it, I mean, it's so easy to show you something on a camera because I get to sit here and I can redo it, and I can take my time with things, and it's also kind of facing the right way. You can see everything that's going on. But as I was demoing, I had to demo it upside down and show everyone as I was doing it. So I was completely surprised if it turned out or not, and it actually kind of came out okay. I still do love this one. You know, obviously I spent a lot more time doing this piece at home and just kind of playing around with it, but I still enjoyed how the demo came out, and I think everyone did a really fantastic job. You should go and search the hashtag Art Journaling the Magic too, because if you're not familiar with that whole experience and you are a bit of a Disney lover and you do love some art, it's kind of a treasure trove of stuff to look at. This was from the actual day. This was the demo piece, and it was looking kind of interesting until I put the big black calligraphy stroke marks all over it. And then I was demoing some paint pens. You know, when you're in the demo space, it's kind of like, oh, if you add this, you know, it looks like this, and why don't you try this, and it looks like that. So it looks a little hodgepodge in the end, but I'm telling you, the way that everyone else created it just looked really, really beautiful, and I'm sure you can probably see why I enjoyed my original piece a little bit better than this one, but it was still a lot of fun to see how everyone interpreted this and the ways that they went about creating it. I was testing out some fluorescent watercolors. These are the Kramer fluorescent watercolors, and they are super, super bright. I don't even know if it'll show up on camera, but these are like, they look like they're glowing in the daylight. It's kind of insane. And because I just had a swatch page here and I was kind of demoing some stuff, I just tried to pull the page together with some paint markers and some stickers and washi. I took all of my Disney washi as well, and we had a big washi swap, which was really, really amazing. and I just tried to kind of pull it together into some kind of journal spread. Look, it's a little mismatched, but I like it. It's a page in progress, right? Here's a piece I did at the park on the last day when we were kind of looking through everyone's journals. I was just loving it. I was feeling so inspired by all the work that everyone had done, and feeling the FOMO really hardcore. Like, I really wished I had been there for every single part of the experience. So I just sat down and did a little 1920s boudoir kind of Cruella de Vil. I love me some Cruella, and I actually put some Target paint on the back. If you're curious about these Target paints, do not sleep on them, because if they go away, I don't know where we're going to be able to get them again. But this one called Warm Metal is such a beautiful champagne metallic color. I think this was actually recommended to me by Christy when we went to do the in-person workshops last year. I had a lot of the really basic colors, but then she showed me one of the metallics. I'm pretty sure it was Christy. And then she showed me one of the metallics and said that I need to get it, and she was not wrong. I did need to get that, and I've used this a ton already. And you know, I think metallics kind of get a bad rap in journaling a little bit. Metallics and glitter and anything that might leave a bit of a shiny surface, because they are a bit more difficult to work on. But this is so interesting in that you can kind of work on top of it with a bunch of stuff. It's still going to act as a resist to some of your other mediums, but it's also not a sticky metallic, so these pages don't stick together. It's a really beautiful color. The metallic in it is actually such a beautiful shine to it as well, and you can get a really flat look to it if you apply it evenly. I mean, obviously I kind of was a little messy around the edges, but yeah, these are about $2 each from Target in the States. They're handmade modern acrylic paint, and this color is Warm Metal, which is what it looks like. And here, this was actually something I did after the retreat. I was kind of working on some expressions for the online workshop, the whimsical illustration workshop that I'm still putting together at this very moment. It's a lot of work to put a workshop together, who knew? But this is as I was doing some expression practice, and there were just really all these little faces all over the page. And then something so fun about a lot of Disney characters is they have this like widow's peak kind of framing device around their head, like Mickey and Minnie, and like even the evil queen, Maleficent, I think maybe has that as well. It's just got this peak that comes down, so I decided to add that to every one of them, and I think they've got kind of a Disney look to them, so I find that really interesting. Just kind of added some paint marker around the back, because to be honest, this page just looked really ridiculous until all of this came together. It just looked like a lot of faces popped up out of nowhere, which is maybe your gig, I don't know, but this was, I'm glad it pulled together like that. That's everything for this journal. So again, I'm gonna leave a link down to the website where you can get these handmade journals. They are super beautiful. If you have a Disney friend that likes art and is looking for a gift, this is not sponsored, by the way, I'm just speaking from my experience. This really made me want to get in there and do everything. I might actually go and play in there today as well. But a part of me wants to also save it for only when I go to Disney. Like, this is what I bring to Disneyland when I go and journal in there. So I don't know, I'm in two minds. That's why I want to steal Steve's. Steve, if you're watching this, can I just have it? Because honestly, like, what do you need it for? I'll do nice cocoa art in there. This is my Fobonichi. If you were watching last year, you'll remember that around Christmas time, I was having massive FOMO with some Hobonichi Instagram rabbit holes that I fell down. That's what eventually led me to buying the 5-year journal, because I thought this was different enough for me to be able to justify it. Don't have anything like this. But the actual Hobonichi itself, I couldn't justify it because I've got a beautiful set of the Midori paper notebooks from the 10th anniversary collection. And I thought, if I'm not even using those, how on earth are you going to be able to buy a Hobonichi just for no reason? So I thought, we'll practice in here, and if you do a good job at it, you can maybe think about getting it. In the end, I got this because this was different. I wanted to try this, and I actually just kept going in this because what I really like about it is the grid on it, and it does have a bit of a negative space around here. The 10th anniversary journals are quite interesting because they've got different, like there's a white grid journal which I really love. There's this one which has the grid. I'll show you a page just so you can see. It has the grid up until about here, and then kind of a column and a border down the bottom, just like a footnotes kind of a section. I'm not really quite sure what this one was for, but then there's one with bigger grids in it. There's one with lines, vertical lines, if you want to practice your writing in Japanese. But they've got some really interesting versions of these books from the 10th anniversary collection. So this became my Fobonichi, and I was just documenting my weeks in there. I did start out really well. I'm just going to say that much because I've kind of changed my approach a little bit more recently. This is what I'm talking about. The flexibility just had to kick in. I had to just accept it. I was doing like theming, you know, obviously around Christmas time, it's pretty easy to theme your pages because there's a lot of, you know, just go red and green and put some Christmas ephemera in there. Easy done, simple. But then once Christmas was over, it just kind of became anything and everything I wanted to put in there. This was actually still Christmas, but I figured I'd done 2 Christmas spreads, so I didn't need to redo those spreads here. And this is when I started to like draw some stuff in there and do watercolor. I don't think I'd done watercolor in here before that. It was alcohol marker. I do actually skip every second page. So if I do my spread on this page, I'll skip these two and then start on this. And I ended up backing these together to like glue them together just because the alcohol markers were bleeding through, and so were some of the pens as well. And instead of just trying to work around that, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to be mad if I miss every second page in this book. I would rather have something I'd love to work in that works for me than have to cater to what this book dictates, you know, that I can and can't do. I know some people will cringe and think that that's awful because I'm wasting every other page, but to be honest, I think that's what journaling is about. You're not supposed to restrict yourself in ways that doesn't make you want to get in there. And that's just something I had to accept early on in the piece. These pages in here are actually my weight loss journey, so let's not. I'm down 20 pounds though. I do want to admit that. I want to put that out there. I think I'm going to regret putting that out there if I end up gaining it back. But, you know, she's down 20 pounds. I'm feeling fabulous. I've lost a chin. Here is some more Christmas. I think this is the last Christmas spread. Then we hit January. I really, really like this. It's actually a lot of ephemera. There's actually not much here. I think I only drew these two things. The rest is ephemera and photos. And, you know, for once in my life, these alphabet stickers have come in handy. I think I might have had these for no joke. These might be my mum's from when she was doing scrapbooking when I was 13 years old. So these are 15-year-old stickers. Then we get into January and I was feeling very 80s, very fresh, very Xanadu. I wanted to do more illustration in here. I did want to commit to doing a bit more of like drawing things that I don't typically draw, because I can always just sit down and have no problem drawing a face or whatever, but you know, to draw my sketch planner or to draw out some pencils. I've done stuff like that before, but it's just a rare occasion and it's only if I need to draw it. There's no real time where I sit down and kind of practice it just to practice it. So I took the challenge that week to kind of give it a go. I got a set of Blackwing pencils from Steve and they were a mixed set, so I actually got to try a bunch all at once and then I swatched them out over here. They all look the same because they're all graphite pencils. But you know, there are differences to them, I guess. I actually think it's the softness of the lead that is different in the different versions, but I do love them. They're beautiful and I was just going to collect them, but then I thought, no, why would you do that? They're gorgeous, use them, sharpen them all up, and I've been using them ever since. I had a business card printed for Creativation, so that popped in there. This is when I was getting the stamps ready, the stamp samples, kind of ready for Creativation. These were printed versions from my digital files. Was still really into Terrace House at this point, still binging it. I don't know if you can see this, but this cracks me up. This is a cat from a show called Feral TV in Australia, and it is an absolute riot. To me. I just one day came across it. I think someone had a meme and I just remembered, like, as a kid, I used to watch Feral TV all the time. I could not get enough. All of those 90s cartoons I was just super into, but Feral TV specifically, it's kind of a puppet. They work at a TV station, but they're all feral animals. There's a dog, there's a bunny, there's a rat, and there's a cat, and her name is Modigliana, which, I mean, get into that name. Honestly, I think I'm going to name my next cat Modigliana. Steve would not like that, I'm sure. But Modigliana is everything to me. I think I've got two spirit animals in this world. I've got Miss Piggy for obvious reasons, and then I've got Modigliana, who's more like my Australian version spirit animal, but she's it, sis. Here we go to Art Journaling the Magic. Now, this is where I wanted to say things kind of got off track a little bit. Not in a bad way, but in the sense that there was so much that I wanted to document about this experience that I couldn't devote the whole week to this spread. I kind of had to separate the week into a different week, which then ended up ripping out because I didn't like it, and I wanted to reuse some of the parts for another week, so this is what I ended up reusing it for. But there was so much to gather from this experience alone, like the palette that I ended up taking that I put together just for the retreat. I even started trying to name some of the colors for, you know, from Disney characters, or like this I called Marigold Petals for Coco, and I called this one Honey from Winnie the Pooh, and Cinderella for, I mean, obviously. I called this one Tink and Penny Arcade. Like, they actually have real names. I thought it was kind of fun to give them a bit of a Disney naming system, since I did put that palette together specifically to join everyone at the retreat. Here's Tangy and Brit. I took my little Polaroid camera out for the first time in years. I had some fun custom frame, not custom, but you know what I mean, like printed frames, Pixar ones, and I think I had Lilo and Stitch ones as well. So it was actually perfect that I could take them out, because for the longest time I wasn't using my camera, mostly because I don't go to events anymore that I feel the need to bring it to, but specifically that I had these. I thought it'd be a perfect way for us all to kind of take photos with each other and put them in our journal. I did have this in my Wally journal, but then I pulled it out to put it in here. This is probably everything should have been in my Wally journal, then I could have just documented by week, but I was just having so much fun. It is so fun. I want to go right now. I'm like the ultimate fan for art journaling the magic. I shouldn't say that. There are much more dedicated people to the retreats. But just ask anyone that's actually been to one, ask them how much fun it is, and I'm sure you'll get the full lowdown. So this was a whole documenting that experience, and then I ended up documenting the whole of Creativation in a spread as well, because I had too much to add for that. So it became really difficult to kind of keep that chronological order of, week to week to week. As far as, when I had big events, I had so much more to say about it, or so much more ephemera to put down in there, or so much more that I wanted to do with it. So I ended up just dedicating full spreads to it. And even then, an A5 full spread isn't like the biggest thing ever. It's technically like a US letter size piece of paper. So I've still found myself leaving a lot out, but at the same time, I kind of love that these events have their own spread. That just sounded so crazy. I heard myself say that, but hopefully if you're watching this, you're one of those people that understands what I'm saying. But anyway, here's Creativation. Here's a lot of photos from the show that I printed on my home printer. I used that Chiltern Wove paper as well. In my influencer store page on Amazon, there's a link down in the description below as well. You'll find it in the papers section. It is still the best matte photo paper. Thank you, Lorraine, again for sending that to me. It is the best matte photo paper. Sticker paper as well, I should say. It's adhesive on the back. It is just the best. The quality is so stunning. And I just use that to print a lot of my home photos when I'm at home. I do still use my Sprocket. I actually use my Sprocket a lot in this, but I feel a little guilty because it is expensive, and also the quality isn't the best on the Sprocket. I do still think I rate it pretty good for a travel, kind of portable printer. But as far as, what you could do at home for cheaper and better quality, the Chiltern Wove paper and the printer that I use as well. I know I've listed that before and people have bought it, but that's also in the storefront as well. So just check the Amazon influencer store page if you literally want to buy everything in this little studio I've got going on. But I did just want to mention that, because if you are doing some kind of journaling that requires a lot of photos, it can be really expensive to sprocket the whole thing. Or as my husband likes to call it, the HP sprock. Did anyone catch his Creativation IG lives? I put some of it in the vlog, but I mean, that was just too funny. These are some of the demo pieces that I made before I went to the show. Really, really loved these. And this is where I got the glitter out. I don't know if you can see that. I've got this beautiful glitter that Zandra sent me a long time ago. And I ration it out because it's so beautiful. But glitter is something I feel like I also don't see a lot of people getting into their journals. And I don't know why I don't get it out more often, because I'm such a sucker for anything that sparkles, and don't want to turn the page because I'm too busy looking at it. But that's it. That's the glitter. That's Creativation. Love that. Here is where we're almost at the end for this one. Because these past two spreads were big events, I kind of realized that throughout the weeks, especially having cut up, so you can see how I missed the page there, especially having cut up this and kind of putting it off to the side, I'd kind of missed a couple of weeks. So I just decided to say, you know what, let's start again and document from January 22nd to February 3rd, get it all down in there. There was kind of a general gist of things that were going on, so I decided to list everything just down here, like the Daisy book, the collaborative Daisy book. This is the little print proof that I have to when I was making my edits, but it is just so fun. I'm so glad this is at the printers already. I think it's going to look really, really beautiful. Obviously, I'll let you know when they're all in the store. I prefer flipping through this one than my actual one that I made. This is so much fun to look at because every illustration is different, and it's just, I mean, to see everyone's different style, I literally have chills when I open this stuff, because to see that Daisy take a million different forms and just the story, it just brought back so many good memories. So I've really loved. Can you see? I'm literally getting chills. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. That's been something that I've been working on a lot. It's been a little bit difficult to kind of gather all of the photos and that whole process that it took to formatting everything and getting, just kind of working on a project with, 30 other people. It's like a big challenge sometimes, but for the most part it was actually pretty good. It just kind of took a little bit of time waiting for some stuff. So I put the Daisy book down there because it was finally sent off to the printers. The new concept stamp set, the pre-order that we had, it will go into general stock in the Etsy store in a couple of weeks or a few weeks whenever it arrives here and all the pre-orders have been sent out. Lots of my off-camera stuff, my sketch planner. I've been working in my Hobo and my Phobo. I did 2 new sticker sets as well. You actually see a version of those in my sketch planner. I made 2 new sticker sets and sent that off to the printer as well, just because selfishly I wanted them, but I did order some extra for the store. So we'll see how many get to the store. Did my little phone here for the YouTube, you know, the Creativation vlog. I did my iPad here because I've been working on some other stuff, and just have had lots of meetings, I've had lots of phone calls, I've had lots of interviews, I've had lots of like everything happening in the past few weeks that have just kind of taken me away from some of the other things that I had planned. And that's what I mean about being flexible this year. It's been super challenged already, but I'm tackling it. I'm open to it. I'm still open to it, thank goodness. But I just decided to kind of put everything out here. It's been raining all week. This was the little idea that I took from my 5-year Hobonichi and put it in here. I was going to do the little squares again, but I thought it might look more fun with big raindrops. This is kind of my office setup. So like that's my ring light. I'm looking at it because I always look at it and I feel guilty if I haven't filmed anything. Maybe that's why I'm filming today. I don't know. But it still looks like this. It's actually raining outside. I've got a to-do list that's longer than, you know, me, and just so many things going on at once. Just so mmany things to work on, so many things that I want to do that are passion projects, so many things that I need to do so that I can pay rent, so many things that I want to do, you know, just that are outside of business altogether. They're outside of art as well. There are just so many other things that I want to do. So it's felt a little overwhelming, and I think for the most part, it's just the idea of being in limbo that gets me a little stressed out. So once I have some answers on a few things, I'm sure I'll be, you know, much more level-headed. But yeah, I just laid it all out. This is the first time I've fully illustrated a spread. All the other ones have had kind of photos and ephemera and lots of bits and pieces. This is fully illustrated and watercolored with 3 watercolors. Just tried to limit my palette so it would look cohesive, knowing that everything in here would have a different color. And I wanted to just make it a little bit more fantastical. I loosened up on the illustration as well. I really didn't care if things looked a little wonky, and I think that is its own aesthetic. So I think there's nothing wrong with that as long as you commit to it, you know, strong and wrong. It's not wrong, I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm still waiting for the day when I approach something loosely and managed to just be that loose about it, because even though I wasn't caring about a lot of stuff, I still got to the end and I kind of thought, oh, you know what, it needs just some details. So I grabbed out a little gel pen, and then it just was on for young and old. There were details everywhere, everything got re-outlined. It was just, I still wasn't as loose as I wanted to be, I guess is my point. And this is some of the stuff that I cut out from another day, and I'm just kind of from another spread in the book. I'm just kind of redoing it into a new spread for the coming week, just so I didn't waste it. I actually liked the idea of it. I liked how they looked, but you know, at the time, if you've abandoned a week or a day or, you know, a few days or an event, it gets really hard to go back to it. And so I think I'm more of the mindset of just accepting that that stuff isn't documented, but the next stuff will be. And if there's stuff that I can pull from there, and I think, you know, bonus of working on separate pages is that I could just pull this stuff out. There was nothing on the back, and I could redo it, reuse it, recycle it, refresh it, you know, do all the stuff I need to do to it to feel better about having missed it. And then also, I mean, to be honest, if I'm doing the 5-year journal, there is stuff in here that I can go back to and know exactly what I did if I do need to know what I did. But at the same time, like, I don't think the creativity should live in the past like that. For me anyway, I just don't think that to go back and try and, you know, for me to go back and document something from 2 weeks ago, like some things I might want to do that if it was a big event like Creativation or, you know, Art Journaling the Magic, maybe I do want to go back and do it properly. It just gets really hard to sit in the feelings of it if you're already a week away from there. If you've already experienced, you know, a week's worth of new things, and you might be in a different headspace, and we all know that whatever headspace we're in kind of ends up coming out in what we do. So I prefer just to let it be, let it live in the 5-year journal and you know, let it be in there. And then for this, stay current with it, stay fresh with whatever I'm feeling motivated by and whatever I'm actually working on and experiencing. You know, to an extent, this was even difficult to do because I was recapping a lot of stuff. There was obviously more things that I did in this time frame, and probably longer than that. But this was enough for me to recap it and say, you know what I'm feeling about this last few weeks is that I've been struggling to know whether I should film some more. It's been raining for a week. I've had a ton of projects going on. How do I put that together so I can recap it and then just move on? Rather than go back to an individual moment and say, oh, I think I was feeling this at that point. I don't know. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, but I don't feel it now. Like, I'd rather just say what I feel now. I hope that makes sense to you, but that is my Fobonichi weeks. I'm still loving it. I've still got so many more things I want to try with it. It's difficult to move on to a bit of a different style when there's one that I want to probably go back to. Like, I really enjoy the just the simple illustrations with the color blocking behind it. I think that was fun. But then again, I've got so many other things I want to try, so who knows? We'll just see where it goes. I might even ditch this week and start again. But yeah, that's it. That's the Fobonichi weeks. The last one is the sketch planner, and I think if you watch the kind of unboxing and the putting together, I did mention a few things I was stressed about the sketch planner, and for one, it was just a lot smaller, so I didn't know how that format was going to work. I've already noticed that I've bulked it up a ton. Now that's because I add everything in the kitchen sink to these things, but I'm probably going to have to work in 3-month blocks, not 6-month blocks, and I'm going to have to find a system to store all this in when I want to switch it out, because it's already kind of getting to the point where it's going to burst over the top of the rings. They are quite small. It is a 6-ring binder. I actually got sent this in the mail. I still don't know who sent it to me, but thank you so much. This is a 6-ring hole punch. Unfortunately, it is not the right dimensions for this, but I did put a little notch there because I noticed if you moved one all the way to the edge, you could slot your paper in, punch it, pull the paper upside down, punch it again, and they would be in the right positions. So I've just kind of had to work that to my advantage a little bit, but this is so much better that I have this now. And I think that's probably why I've been adding a lot of extra stuff in it. This is a bit of a swatch card that I did. I was going to put my little houses in there, but I didn't have time. These are matte acrylic paints. I was using these on Instagram Live last week, I believe. I think it was last week. Anya sent me these. They are not a brand that I can find in the States, and I've forgotten the name of the brand, so I'm so sorry. If you want to know, just go check out Anya's Instagram at Mrs. Lockwood Loves Letters. I'll put that in the description below as well. I've got a lot going on in that description already. Watch me not get to any of it. These are really, really great, and if you are in Europe, these would be my pick instead of the handmade modern acrylic paints. I don't know if there's a full color selection, but these are the ones that Anya depotted into smaller little tubs and gave me to try, and they're just beautiful colors and super, super matte. Like, just so matte. They're literally so matte that on the black, you can see the difference in the finish of the ink that I used to write, like the pen on top of the black. I don't know if it'll pick up on camera. Hopefully it does. Really, really beautiful. Everything that I tip in here with this, I actually used the business card planner. After Creativation, I had a ton of business cards, so now I have a ton of business cards in here. This actually came in handy, who knew? But every time I tip something in, I usually cover the front and the back. If it's this, when I put it in there, I'll pull it back out and start adding lots of ephemera on the back, just so everything's decorated. I just love that. I love that look. There's so much going on. My eyes have a field day. This was some of the watercolor testing that we were doing, deciding if this watercolor paper was worth it or not. I do think the watercolor paper is nice. It's still a little thin. It does buckle, but it has a nice effect on it. I want to say it's a lot more of an open texture for watercolor. A lot of the other watercolor papers I use that are, you know, the cold press watercolor paper, the texture is a lot more fine. This almost has kind of, I don't know how better to explain it, but just to say it's more open, like the bumps and the ridges and the valleys and all that stuff, they're not super close together and fine. It's actually quite open. I've just punched some holes into some of the artworks that I've just had lying around so that they have a home to live. I love that. I know some people were really stressed that I was putting holes in some of this stuff, but I think you have to remember that I don't have a specific personal attachment to a lot of the stuff that I create. It is just for fun. I'm not trying to sell it. Sometimes I scan it and I'll put it into a book, or I'll make a digital copy of it and put it into a collage sheet, but for a lot of the stuff, the originals do just sit around lying about my studio, and I don't frame as much as I used to, and I don't display as much as I used to because I create so constantly. There's just way too much to do that for. So the fact that they do have somewhere to live now makes me so much happier, and I really don't mind that there are holes in there. I really don't mind that they're backed with other pieces of ephemera and stickers and stuff. I think once it comes out of here, it's going into another storage system, and that will just be its own kind of junk journal binder or something. And I'm just doing the same thing that I did with my last sketch planner. I'm just finding all of the loose bits and pieces that have no homes, that I've had projects for, you know, months, that I've never done anything with, and I just punch a hole in them and I just glue them in or stick them in, and that's just it. I don't have to worry about them anymore. I don't have to feel guilty. I always just say to myself, it's just not hoarding if it ends up in a journal. I know it's everywhere, but I just have to remind myself, because that's, you know, there's a reason I had to put that on a tote and on a jumper and wear it daily. Because it's one of my biggest stresses. It's one of my biggest problems. I feel guilty for hoarding so much stuff, and beautiful things like an art print from Ali Brown, and, you know, postcards that I haven't sent out, but I'm just kind of waiting over there, and sample pieces from Playtest Patreon. Like, this is from ages ago. Stickers I picked up from my nephew that I stole. So, you know, this place has got to live somewhere. This stuff has got to go somewhere. These stickers I printed out from when I was doing transparent sticker. This was like early 2018. So this would have been coming up to a year old, and I just hadn't used it, and it's a sticker. Like, how hard is it to put a sticker down? So that's why I love the sketch planner, because not only do I mean, obviously I plan my days out and keep a schedule for myself. There's so many extra places I can add all the little bits and pieces that just have nowhere to be. And I do find that working in this small size, it fills up a lot quicker than it used to, but most of my stuff is sized specifically to kind of fit this format. It's like it's an A5 size, so I mean, anything that I could do in a journal spread, I could essentially do in here as well. And I've just found that it's been a great experience so far. I don't know how other people are getting on with the sketch planner. I think you can still buy it. I think it's now stocked at Sketch Wallet. I'll put that in the description box below as well if you're curious. I still want to gesso the cover and paint it, or possibly put travel stickers over it, vinyl stickers like I did with my Hobo box. For now, I'm just kind of leaving it. The gray just doesn't do a lot for me. I mean, you can see everything in this is like super colorful and super fun. The gray just it just feels way too businessy for me. And I also found out I actually don't need much more for my daily planning than this. My days are quite repetitive, but I haven't had to use shorthand or anything. I just write what it is. Generally, like 3 or 4 things can take a whole day for me to do. So in my other sketch planner, when this was like, you know, that big, I just found myself putting like a lot more stickers and a lot more decoration on the planning side. Now I kind of just put smaller things over here, and everything else lives off to this side. This was the palette that I had in my little travel palette before I took it out to do the Disney one. And these were just like spare colors left over, or ones that didn't have a home. And so when I had recreated this palette, I actually loved this one a whole lot more, so I left them in there. Because I rarely used it when all these colors were together, which was so sad because there's some beautiful colors in there. But I think even the way your paints are laid out does kind of affect how often you want to pull them out. Like, if there's a more enticing looking palette, you're probably going to reach for that one, even if there are more pretty colors in here. I tried to do a bit of watercolor on this paper, and it acts just like any other copy paper would when you watercolor it. It does get that crinkly texture in it, which I kind of like, but there's no specific watercolor textures going on. It's just kind of a wash of color over there. So I pulled some gel pen out to kind of add some extra motifs to jazz it up a little bit. On some of these things, I've actually put in like an extra page, and I think this is what most people would refer to as a dashboard. So this is purely decorative, this one. Like, it's not backed onto anything. This one, I guess, is just decorative as well. It's not backed onto anything. The only pages that are, you know, planner are these ones. So essentially, I could take these out and just keep all the dashboards, or when I make the journal at the end, I could just put all of the decorated pages in there. But I probably will keep these because there are still things on these pages that I like. Like, this is an original little watercolor illustration. I don't just want to throw that away because it's on a planning page. And sometimes I just think it might be fun to look back at how I plan my days like 6 years from now and see what's changed, and possibly how simple this was, or how hectic my life was here. I don't know, it might be fun to look at. Here's some just random illustrations I did one night looking at Chris Hong art on Instagram. I believe that's who I was looking at. She has such beautiful faces that I wanted to practice and see what it was that made up that face, and kind of alter it and, you know, adapt it to something that I felt was a bit more visually appealing for me. Even though I love what she does, I just found it was a little too neat and constructed for me, and I wanted to break it down into a bit more of a messy, sketchy kind of a look. So did a little Tinkerbell over here, did a little Cinderella over here. She was just random, they were random. More photos that I had accidentally double printed from Creativation. These were a little too large too, so it's nice that they can live in here and, you know, not take up too much space in my phobo. This was a demo piece that I created at Creativation. Created at Creativation. This was the one that I was working on, kind of showing everyone. This is a beautiful rose gold color that Zandra made. She handmade this. Isn't it beautiful? It's like copper candles from Designs by Rachel Beth, except it's a different shade of metallic copper. This is truly a bit more of a rose gold, and the copper is a lot more of a yellow copper. Being really picky there, but I love both of them, and I just think the metallics just added such a beautiful element to this. This is all made with the sample concept stamp set. I used some of the Decora pieces down here as well. Can't wait for those to come in and make demo videos. This is another little sample I made at the show. And I didn't want to put the whole thing in there, so I just cut it off because it was the only thing on the page. And then on the back, I made this little fish. So I think that was really fun. This is probably one of my favorite pieces in the whole sketch planner. I know it's bizarre, but like, when else would I have ever thought to make a little fish face? I love her. This might even be one of the demo videos. It'd be a fun little tip in for your journal, but this is what I love about the sketch planner, is I can just punch some holes in it and put it in there. Now it lives in there. Just a little fish. Got some photos, some stickers, more stickers. This little, I wanted to tip this in because it had the original that I did on Instagram Live, and then it had the version I wanted to put in there from when I redid it off camera, just so I could have a side-by-side comparison. I didn't not love this. This is also done with the Concepts face stamp as well. I wanted to practice using a dark background and doing acrylic painting over the top, because I don't usually use acrylics the way I probably should have taught myself how to use them. I just kind of go haphazard and pretend they're, you know, pencils or markers or anything. But I wanted to work with the texture of it. I wanted to try and get some blending in. I wanted to get some of that dry brush effect that I looked at in the Finding Inspiration from the mid-century Disney coffee table book. I wanted to use all of these techniques and actually use a stamp to build the image, because that is what the concept stamp sets are about, and I still don't know if I've made that super clear yet, but hopefully the videos will make that clear when the final product comes in. So I did this on Instagram Live, which is difficult. I mean, Steve was there to help me this time with some of the questions, but to be in conversation with everyone and kind of creating and doing something you're a little unfamiliar with, I wasn't unhappy with how this turned out, but you're also kind of timed on Instagram, and I'm very aware of you get kicked off after about like an hour, I think it's like 59 minutes. Used to be an hour, I think. I don't know, maybe it's open now. But I get really aware of the time and just kind of being in conversation. So it's just kind of loose, and it's like doing a side project while you're talking. But I wanted to actually focus on it because there was something that I wanted to learn from it, and I'm really glad that I took the time to redo it in a way that I could learn what I wanted to learn. So I wanted to have them side by side just to show the difference of, you know, to myself, like when I rush something and I'm not paying attention to when I can pay attention, just as a bit of reassurance for myself. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I left it at this, I would have looked at this and kept thinking, well, it wasn't what I thought. Maybe it could be, I don't know. I'm so sick of the maybes. Like, I want to know. If I had repeated this the second time, then I know there's a lot of work that we need to do. Let's get on to that. But this, I was actually really, really happy with. There's obviously some things I can work on, but I was happy to know that the thought I had could be realized at the current skill level that I have. So I keep that in there. A lot of, and again, like maybe people think I should have like sold this or something, or framed it or put it on my wall. I don't know. I'm not so attached to this because it was a practice piece. I can just put holes in it. But I think it's also important to remember that this is something I flip through every single day. So to put things in here that inspire me, or to remind me of certain things, like to validate maybe the feelings I have of insecurity about a skill, or, you know, thoughts that I have about what I want to try next, or, you know, just to even put little reminders in here for myself and little affirmations, I think is a really important thing, seeing as I do flip through it every day. You know, this, like my last sketch planner, is probably my most used journal, other than the Hobo 5-year journal, which is now a daily thing. This sketch planner, like, it is a daily thing for me. Sometimes I do find myself actually saving nicer pieces for this. Even though it's a sketch planner, you know, rather than putting them in an art journal, because it seems like now the art journals are like just the practice free-for-all space, and which they are, but, you know, this is something that I really want to see nicely. But then again, you look at the back of this and it looks a mess, which, you know, I don't care about. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting to work in these sketch planners. I do love what they end up becoming. And this is where we're at. Today is Monday. Oh no, I just realized something. This is gonna really annoy me, but I think I'm just gonna pretend it doesn't exist and maybe take this page out. Sometimes with the sketch planner, they start the month again as you start the next month. So I just realized that this is the end of January, the start of February, so that they can keep the same Sunday start to Saturday. And here I was supposed to start over here because this is today. This is not today. Do you know what? It doesn't matter. I'll just change the numbers. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Anyway, so I did decorate this wrong page with some stickers. These were actually a free printable that I had from Mermaid last year that I had on Facebook. It's no longer available, but perhaps this Mermaid, there might be a new free printable. I print them on just sticker paper, and then I color them in and just cut them out and put them on here. So they can all look like they're from the same set, but to be honest, they're all random illustrations just from that free printable. And this is a mock-up of the sticker sheets that I made. I made 2, and they're both A5 this time. I've just put lots of fun illustrations. Most of them you've just seen, like the Creativation samples, little fishes in there. She's in there from the Instagram Live. But I also put some other little random things in there as well, like little heads and faces, and some of the other illustrations that I never really showed, but I do really enjoy and thought might be a fun little sticker. Let's be honest, I made this for myself. Because I wanted it, and I'm probably just going to put the rest on Etsy as, I mean, I just said journal sticker sheets. They are what they are. There's no specific theme to this. There's no reason for it being other than I wanted these as stickers. Especially since I'm covering this with stickers, I thought there might be some fun ones to put on there as well. Because I do believe they actually are printed with UV resistant ink, and they're a vinyl sticker, so they're actually pretty good quality. This is just a print that I made from my home printer, so they won't look exactly like this, and they'll be all kiss cut. They'll have like nicer colors and be a bit more crisp with possibly a border, and they'll be all kiss cut, so you can just peel them out and use them. The back is just a journal spread that I did. I put it behind there because I thought it was really fun. So who knows, if you finish using all your stickers and you peel up the back, you could just fill in the blanks and have a journal spread. It would be super difficult to do, but I'm sure there might be someone out there up for the challenge. Otherwise, you can just rip it all apart and stick it down as scrap sticker paper, I guess. That is it. I honestly thought this would take 10 minutes. An hour later, here we are. I hope you enjoyed it. That's been my sketch planner, my Hobonichi 5-year journal, my Fobonichi weeks in the MD paper anniversary 10th anniversary edition notebook, and my Disney Golden Book journal for art journaling the magic. Hope you enjoyed watching that little bonus video. I'll be back on Friday for a Valentine's Day swatch doll tutorial, and I'll see you then. Bye.